In this video, I'm going to show the steps required to complete the Excel assignment for section 12.1, which is our visual displays of data. The first thing you're going to need to do is download the example template that is posted on our class Canvas page. So if you enter Canvas in our class site, the home page is the same thing as the modules page. So you'll need to scroll down until you enter the week 13 section. In week 13, under Friday, there's the 12.1 Excel examples Excel file. You're going to need to download this file. So typically when you click on it, you get a view of the file, like a PDF. You're going to have to actually click the blue link so it'll download. Once you've downloaded the file, go ahead and open it in Microsoft Excel. You are going to see some pre-filled information that came with the file, and there's multiple tabs at the bottom of your screen. So there should be 4 tabs for 4 examples. If yours did not open with example 1 being open, go ahead and click on the tab for example 1. So we're first going to look at this first problem that involves a number of car accidents. So it says in column A, that's the series of numbers that we see running vertically here. That's the amount of car accidents that were reported by 50 customers of a local car insurance company. And we want to make a graph that shows the percentage of customers that fall into each risk category. So for this example and for the Excel assignment that you'll be submitting later, I've broken up this task into 3 parts to assist you to go through it. So the first part, I want you to go ahead and explain which graph would be the most appropriate to display this information, either a circle graph, or often referred to as a pie chart, a bar graph or histogram, or a line graph. Now here, we want to talk about risk categories. So if a person has 0 accidents, we can see from our table here, they're considered low risk. If they have 1 or 2 accidents, they're considered a medium risk. 3 accidents is high, and 4 or more accidents is very high. So we have categories that would indicate that potentially a bar graph or a circle graph would be a good choice for representing those various categories. And so it ultimately comes down to what sort of information I want to display. So a bar graph is better for displaying quantities, like how many people fall in each category. A circle or graph or pie chart is better for percentages. So since they specifically asked for the percentage of customers that fall into each category, the better choice between these two would be our circle graph or pie chart. So on the assignment, if you click in this box, you can now type in your response as to why that particular graph is your selection. So here I've typed in an explanation why a circle graph or pie chart would be the particular graph to use here. So one, we want to use it for percentages. Another important thing to make sure that you are correctly using a pie chart is that all of your different categories should add up to 100%, and any one data item, in this case a person, in our car insurance company, shouldn't fall into more than one category. So here when we look at the number of accidents a person has had in a year, it's a specific number. It's exactly 1 or exactly 2 or exactly 3 and so on. So they're only going to be able to fall into one of these categories. They won't ever be able to fall into more than one. And that's very important for a pie chart. So now that I've decided on which graph I want to make, I'm going to move to part B, which is filling in our frequency table. So here we have some items already in our table. We need to fill in the frequency column, or how often we saw that number occur in our data. And then the relative frequency, which is really just the percentage, right? How much out of the total amount of customers did we see this particular risk category coming up? So as you can look at column A, all of our data items, and you can scroll through to see all of them, they are not in any particular order. They look like the raw data that was collected. And so going through and counting all the zeros, the people that said 0 accidents, all the people that said 1 accident, and so on, would take a bunch of time. So there is a feature in Excel to sort our data and put all of our zeros together, all the ones together, and so on. So how you would do that is we want to go ahead and select all the cells that have our data. The easiest way to do that is to put the mouse or cursor on the header that says A, column A, and click on it. When you click on that, it'll go ahead and select the entire column A for us. And then in the Home tab, so there's these various tabs for menus at the top. Make sure you're in the Home menu. Go to the far right side of the page, and there's an icon that says Sort and Filter. If you click on that, it'll give you your filtering options. So I can filter all of these items from smallest to largest, largest to smallest, or there's also a custom sort option if you want them sorted in a particular way. So here, smallest to largest should be fine for our purposes, so click on that. And what we can see is that my column A has now changed. I can see all the zeros were placed together in order, then all the ones, and then all the twos, and so on. So it's going to make it a lot easier for us to count up how many there were of each number. So the zeros, I can go through and count each cell individually. I can also use the row numberings here on the left side of the screen. So I can see it runs from 1 to 24. So there was 24 zeros. So I'm going to fill in my table by clicking the cell for frequency, and you just type in 24 and hit enter. So Excel is going to treat that like a text entry. So it's going to put the 24 in there for us. For 1 or 2 accidents, again, I can go through and start counting each cell. I can also use the numbering that's on the side for each row to assist us. So I can see row 24 is the last row where I had a 0. And then row 44 is where the 2's ended. So the medium risk are 1's and 2's. So I could take the row where the 2's ended, which was 44, and subtract off the row where the 0's ended, which was 24. So 44 minus 24, that's 20. So I'm going to type 20 for the medium risk. High risk was for 3 accidents. So again, I'm going to scroll down and look for the 3's. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And 4 and 5's, I can count those 2 as well. There's 2 of those. So 4 people had 3 accidents, and 2 people had 4 and 5 accidents. So I filled in the frequency part of the table. Now I'm going to fill in the relative frequency. So the relative frequency is actually a calculation. I want to divide the 24 people that had 0 accidents by the total of number of customers, which was 50. So I could calculate that in my calculator and then type it in like text here in Excel. But the beautiful thing about Excel is that it also functions like a calculator, that if you want it to perform a calculation, it'll calculate it for you. The trick is to click into whatever cell you want the calculation to occur. So here I'm going to click in the cell for the relative frequency low risk side. And you're going to type in equals. So when you type in the equal sign, that's how Excel knows you're going to ask it to perform a calculation. And so it's going to work more like a calculator than like a word editing software program. And you're going to type in what calculation you want to do. So using your keyboard, if I want to do division, 24, do your divide side by 50. Right? So equals 24 divided by 50. When I hit enter, it will perform my calculation and it'll give me the result. So that's 0.48. Now I could go through and do that for the remaining 3 cells. That's not a problem. The thing is though, Excel has a lot of capabilities to speed up repeated calculations like this. So I'm really doing a repeated calculation. I'm going to take all the numbers from this frequency column, divide them by 50, and I want to know the end result. So there is a way that I can calculate this a lot more efficiently than to always have to type in a different formula for each row in my table that I have here. So an alternative is, rather than using 24, I'm still going to have equals, but I'm going to click on the cell where my 24 is located. So if I click on that, you can see it highlighted it and it named the location where that 24 is in my spreadsheet. So it's in column D, row 18. So that's why it says D18 there. And now when I hit enter, I still get the same 0.48. The difference though is that now this becomes an editable equation. So let's say if I had miscounted my zeros and I realized later, oh no, there was 25 of them. When I go through and change that number in my table, it'll automatically update the linked calculation that we put in there for the cell location. So if you had to choose between the two, entering kind of a calculation with numbers or entering a calculation that names a cell location, it's always kind of better to use the cell location, because then you have that ability to manipulate the numbers in your cells, and all your calculations will update as well. So if you did that route, if you go ahead and you named the cell location where 24 is, it also allows us to use a feature in Excel called the copy down feature. And so what that would mean is, if I want this calculation to essentially work the same way for the rest of this table, I can do it very quickly. So the trick is to click on the cell that you want to have the repeated calculation for. When you click on it, you can see that your mouse icon is this kind of large white plus sign. So go to the corner of that cell, and on the lower right hand corner you'll see that it changes. Your icon now is a little skinny black plus sign. So when it's showing that icon, go ahead and hold down your mouse and drag down to all the columns or all the cells that you want that calculation repeated. And when you release on your mouse, you will see it performed all those calculations. And so the numbers are different because we're using different numbers here, the 24 and 2. If I wanted to check in though and make sure that this really was calculating what I wanted it to, you can go ahead and double click on any cell and it'll reveal the formula for you. So I can see it took this location where my value 2 was, and it divided it by 50 for me, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'll hit enter, it'll recalculate it. So in a very fast way, we can have that repeated calculation. Now again, this is more advanced usage of Excel. You don't have to use that functionality, but it's one of those features that becomes very helpful if you use Excel a lot. So it may be nice to know how to do that copy down feature and how to name a cell when you do a calculation. So there is my relative frequency table, and so now I can use that to make my pie chart. So using your mouse, go ahead and select, so click on one cell and then just drag your mouse until it has selected all of the table. So it has selected all of my categories, all the frequency, and all the relative frequency. So you're going to see it highlights the ones that I dragged. It keeps the original one I clicked on white. That's okay. Whatever you selected is going to be enclosed in this kind of colored rectangle. So while that is highlighted or selected, go up to the top menu and click on the Insert tab. And if you look kind of in the middle of the menu options here, you can see all the graphs. So we're going to select the graph that looks like a pie chart. And that will open up a secondary menu with kind of more options as to which sort of pie chart we want. So if you're not sure what you want it to look like, if you hover but don't click on the options, they'll preview them for you. And really, we don't want anything complicated. We just want a normal pie chart. So we'll select that. So it's going to insert your pie chart. You're going to notice that it inserts it automatically right into the middle of your viewing frame, which is usually not the place you want to put it. You can tell that this is on top of the other parts that I don't want covered up. So you can move this graph around, that's fine. What you want to do is click on the white part of your chart area. So not where the information is, just kind of like the blank white section. Click on it and then you can drag it down to a space that it's not covering up something that you wanted to actually be seen. So I dragged my chart down so it wasn't covering up anything. And you can see this pie chart really doesn't have all the information that we need on it. It doesn't have a title. It has my risk categories in the different color coding, but it doesn't tell me the percentage of each of these pie slices, which is important. So we do need to edit our graphs to make them meaningful. So with your graph selected, as you guys can see, I have these little dots, so I know my graph is selected. We want to edit our chart elements, and there's two ways to do that. There's this little plus button that opens up kind of your quick menu where you can add and edit chart items. If you don't have that, that's okay. Everyone has, on the chart tools menu, there's this icon on the top left that says add chart elements. So if you click on that, then select the data labels option and select more data labels, that's going to open up this side pane for us, this menu that we want. So this is where you can check off all the things that you want displayed on your graph and uncheck the things you don't want. So I may not want to know the value, that's how many people fell into our different categories, but I do want to know the percentage. So I can put the percentage on there. If I wanted my label centered a particular place on my graph, I can go ahead and select that. Right? Maybe I like them all on the outside. Best fit, it'll kind of automatically select where it thinks it should be. And this, you have so many editing options. You can change kind of the color of each of your pie slices. There's so much that you can actually do here. Another thing that you can do is if one of your labels isn't exactly where you want it, like this 8% is kind of hidden in this gray section, and I might be worried about that not turning out well when it's printed. You can click on any of these chart elements and move them. So let's say I click on the 8%, I can drag him outside, right? So that way that looks a little bit better and might print a little bit better. You can also change the chart title. That's what I want to do here. I want to name it something meaningful. So this was the percentage of car insurance customers in each risk category. And that's it. So once you've edited your graph to what you want it to look like, it'll stay here in Excel. A common feature though is you usually want to insert these graphs, say, into a report or a Word document. You absolutely can do that. If you right click on the white area of your chart, you can copy your graph, and then you can insert it like a picture into any program that you may want. So say I have a report that I am writing in Word or some sort of Word editing program, and I want to create a graph for that. I would create my graph in Excel, copy it, and then I can insert it as a picture into my report. So that's our first example. In the future videos, I'll go ahead and talk about these other examples. They're highly similar, it's just creating different graphs like the bar chart, the histogram, and our line graph.